Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're diving into a pivotal chapter of Indian history, the civil disobedience movement, from 1930 to 1934. This deep dive is tailor-made for anyone curious about this era, especially those gearing up for the UPSC exams. It's a must-know for the GS1 Modern Indian History syllabus, but trust me, it's a fascinating story for anyone who wants to understand how India fought for its freedom. And before we get started, if you haven't already, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell icon so you don't miss out on future deep dives.
You're absolutely right. This movement wasn't just about protests and marches. It was a complex interplay of politics, social change, and this growing yearning for complete independence, what we call Purna Swaraj.
Okay, so let's set the stage for our listeners. Imagine India in the late 1920s. What was the atmosphere like?
Well, imagine a nation simmering with discontent. You see, the British had been dangling this promise of dominion status, basically a form of self-governance within the British Empire, but they kept delaying it, frustrating many Indians who were demanding complete independence. That classic tactic of making promises but never delivering. It's no wonder people were getting restless.
Exactly. This frustration reached a boiling point at the Lahore session of the Indian National Congress in 1929. That's where the demand for complete independence, or Purna Swaraj, took center stage.
So, this Lahore session was a major turning point then.
Absolutely. It's where the Congress, led by figures like Jawaharlal Nehru and Subhash Chandra Bose, formally rejected the idea of dominion status and declared Purna Swaraj as their ultimate goal. This declaration set the stage for what was to come, the civil disobedience movement.
And this is where Gandhi enters the scene, right? But what's fascinating is his choice of weapon, salt. Why salt? It seems so basic.
That's the brilliance of Gandhi's strategy. Salt, a basic necessity, was heavily taxed by the British, hurting the poorest Indians the most. But choosing salt as the symbol of resistance, Gandhi launched a nonviolent protest that resonated with everyone. It was a masterstroke that unified the nation against British rule. So, tell us about this iconic event, the Dandi March. How did this seemingly simple act of walking become such a powerful symbol of resistance?
Picture this. March 12th, 1930. Gandhi, a man in his 60s, sets off from Ahmedabad with 78 followers on a 240-mile march to the coastal village of Dandi.
On foot, that's incredible.
On foot. And this wasn't just a walk, it was a deliberate act of defiance, carefully orchestrated to capture the world's attention and expose the injustice of the British salt tax. This was the Dandi March, a pivotal moment in India's struggle for freedom.
So, they reach Dandi. What happens next?
On April 6, 1930, Gandhi and his followers reached Dandi and ceremonially broke the salt law by making salt from seawater. This act, broadcasted across the world, was a powerful symbolic challenge to British authority.
And this is where the movement truly ignites. Right? People across India must have been inspired by this act of defiance.
Absolutely. Imagine a wildfire spreading across the nation. People from all walks of life, students, peasants, women, merchants, rose up in protest. They were breaking salt laws, boycotting British goods, and refusing to pay tax.
Wow. That's incredible. Did this mass movement have the same impact everywhere? Or did it play out differently in different regions?
That's a great question. And you're right, the movement manifested in various ways across India, reflecting the diverse social and political landscapes of the country. For instance, in Tamil Nadu, C. Rajagopalachari led a salt march from Tiruchirappalli to Vidaraniyam, while also focusing on picketing foreign cloth shops, strategically targeting British economic interests.
Attacking their wallets. Smart tactic.
Indeed. Down south in Malabar, you had K. Kalapin and P. Krishna Pillai leading their own salt marches. Up north, in Peshawar, Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan, also known as the Frontier Gandhi, mobilized his Kudai Khidmatgars, or red shirts.
Red shirts, that sounds a bit intense. Were they more militant group?
Not at all. They were deeply committed to nonviolent resistance. Just like Gandhi, their red shirts symbolized their willingness to sacrifice for their cause.
So, even with regional variations, the commitment to nonviolent resistance was a unifying factor across the movement.
That's fascinating. Exactly. And one event that truly exposed the brutality of the British response was the Darsana Salt Works raid, led by Sarojini Naidu. The images of unarmed protesters being brutally beaten shocked the world and further galvanized support for the movement.
It sounds like the movement was gaining serious momentum. How did the British react to all this?
Oh, well, they certainly weren't happy. The movement faced harsh repression, with mass arrests, including Gandhi himself, however. In a surprising turn of events, Gandhi and Lord Irwin, the Viceroy of India, negotiated an agreement known as the Gandhi-Irwin Pact in 1931.
A pact. So, did this bring the movement to an end?
Not quite. It was more of a temporary truce. The civil disobedience movement was suspended in exchange for the release of political prisoners and the right for Indians to make their own salt.
Okay, so a partial victory, but not the complete independence they were striving for.
Exactly. And as you can imagine, the pact was met with mixed reactions. Some saw it as a step in the right direction, a sign that the British were willing to negotiate. Others saw it as a compromise, a betrayal of the ultimate goal of Purna Swaraj.
Interesting. A moment of both hope and disappointment. So, what happened next? Did the truce hold?
Well, that's where things get even more complex. Remember that promise of a roundtable conference to discuss India's future? Well, the second roundtable conference failed to deliver on key demands, leaving many Indians feeling disillusioned. The failure of the conference really dampened the spirits of those who had hoped for a peaceful resolution. It became clear that the British were not truly committed to granting India, meaningful autonomy. This led to a sense of betrayal and fueled the flames of discontent once again.
So, I imagine this led to the reignition of the civil disobedience movement. Did Gandhi call for its resumption?
Yes, he did. In 1932, the movement was relaunched. But this time, the atmosphere was different. The British, now wary of the movement's potential, responded with even harsher crackdowns.
What kind of crackdowns are we talking about?
Well, they intensified their efforts to suppress the movement. Congress funds were seized. Key leaders, including Gandhi, were arrested once again, and stricter laws were imposed to curtail protests and gatherings.
That sounds incredibly challenging. How did the movement adapt to this increased pressure?
It was a difficult time, no doubt. The initial unity and momentum of the movement faced internal pressures as well. Disagreements arose within the Congress regarding the way forward, and the years of struggle began to take a toll on the people.
It makes sense that maintaining that level of constant resistance would be incredibly taxing. So, how did Gandhi, a leader known for his strategic thinking, navigate this complex situation?
Gandhi, ever the astute strategist, recognized the shift in the political landscape. In 1934, he made the difficult decision to formally withdraw the civil disobedience movement.
So, was this a defeat? Or was there a deeper strategic rationale behind this withdrawal?
It was certainly not a defeat. Gandhi, with his long-term vision, understood that sometimes strategic retreat is necessary to regroup and reevaluate. He believed that achieving complete independence required a flexible approach.
That's a really interesting point. Sometimes taking a step back can be more beneficial than relentlessly pushing forward. So, although the movement didn't immediately result in complete independence, what would you say was its most significant impact?
Well, the civil disobedience movement was a turning point in India's struggle for independence. It had a profound impact on the political consciousness of Indians, instilled a sense of national unity, and demonstrated the power of nonviolent resistance to the world.
How did it do that? What were the specific effects that led to such a powerful legacy?
For one, it challenged the legitimacy of British rule in a way that had never been done before. Millions of Indians, from all walks of life, participated in acts of civil disobedience, shaking the foundations of British authority. This mass mobilization instilled a sense of unity and national pride.
It's incredible to think about the sheer number of people who participated in this movement. But how did this translate into long-term change?
The movement fostered a spirit of self-reliance and self-governance among Indians. It showed that they were capable of mobilizing and organizing themselves, independently of the British administration. This experience was crucial in laying the groundwork for future movements and, ultimately, for India's independence.
So, the movement served as a training ground for future leaders and solidified the idea of self-rule in the minds of the Indian populace. Were there any other lasting impacts we should consider?
Absolutely. The civil disobedience movement also had a significant impact on the global stage. It showcased the power of nonviolent resistance as a tool for social change. Inspiring similar movements around the world, the movement's emphasis on nonviolence, coupled with its mass appeal, captured international attention and garnered sympathy for the Indian cause.
I can see how that would resonate with people around the world who are facing similar struggles against oppression. It's really fascinating how a movement rooted in the fight for independence in India could have such far-reaching global implications.
Exactly. The civil disobedience movement was a watershed moment not just in Indian history, but in the history of nonviolent resistance movements worldwide.
Now, earlier we talked about the mixed reactions to the Gandhi-Irwin Pact. Some saw it as a victory, while others saw it as a compromise. Can we delve a little deeper into those contrasting perspectives?
Of course. Those who saw the pact as a victory pointed to the immediate gains it secured. The release of political prisoners was a significant win. as was the recognition of the right of Indians to make their own salt. This, they argued, was a symbolic victory against the oppressive salt tax and demonstrated a willingness on the part of the British to negotiate.
I can understand why those concessions would be seen as a step in the right direction. But what were the arguments of those who viewed it as a compromise?
Well, those who criticized the pact felt that Gandhi had conceded too much without securing the ultimate goal of complete independence. They viewed it as a tactical maneuver by the British to quell the movement and maintain their control over India. The subsequent failure of the Round Table Conference to deliver on key demands only reinforced their skepticism.
So, it was essentially a debate between pragmatism and idealism. Those who supported the pact focused on the tangible, albeit limited, gains it brought, while those who opposed it saw it as a betrayal of the ultimate objective.
Precisely. It's a classic dilemma faced by many movements for social change. Do you compromise for incremental gains, hoping they lead to bigger victories down the road? Or do you hold firm to your ultimate goal, even if it means prolonged struggle and potential setbacks?
It's a complex question with no easy answers. But one thing is clear. The civil disobedience movement, despite its eventual withdrawal, left an indelible mark on India's journey towards independence.
Absolutely. It emboldened the Indian people,
Right.
provided valuable experience in mobilizing for a common cause, and served as a source of inspiration for future generations of activists and leaders.
It's truly remarkable how a movement that began with a simple act of defiance, making salt, could spark such profound and lasting change.
It really highlights the power of collective action and the unwavering human spirit when confronted with injustice.
Now, considering that our deep dive is particularly tailored for UPSC aspirants, what are the key takeaways from this discussion that they should keep in mind for their GS1 Modern Indian History preparation?
Well, first and foremost, it's crucial to understand the historical context leading up to the civil disobedience movement, the growing discontent with British rule, the demand for complete independence, and the failure of previous attempts at constitutional reforms are all essential background information.
So having a solid understanding of the events and ideologies that shape this era is critical. What else should our aspiring civil servants focus on?
They should delve into the strategic brilliance of Gandhi's leadership, his choice of salt as a symbol of resistance, his understanding of the power of nonviolent protest, and his ability to mobilize millions across India are all key aspects of the movement's success.
Right. Understanding Gandhi's tactics and his ability to connect with the masses is crucial. What else is important to grasp for the exam?
Understanding the regional variations of the movement is also crucial. While the core principles of nonviolent resistance remain consistent, the movement manifested differently across India. Reflecting the diverse social and political landscapes of the country, it's important to study the roles of key leaders and the specific challenges and strategies employed in different regions.
That's a great point. The movement was a pan-Indian phenomenon. But it's vital to understand the nuances and variations across different regions. What else should our listeners keep in mind?
Finally, it's important to analyze the impact of the movement, both in the short term and long term. The immediate gains, such as the release of political prisoners and the right to make salt, were significant. However, the movement's lasting legacy lies in its role in shaping India's national identity, inspiring future movements for social change, and showcasing the power of nonviolent resistance to the world.
Excellent points. It seems like understanding the civil disobedience movement requires a multifaceted approach, considering the historical context, the strategies involved, the regional variations, and the overall impact. It's not just about memorizing dates and events, but about grasping the complexities and nuances of this pivotal chapter in Indian history.
Absolutely. And remember, studying history isn't just about acquiring knowledge for an exam. It's about understanding the past to inform the present and inspire the future. The civil disobedience movement, with its emphasis on nonviolent resistance, unity, and self-reliance, holds valuable lessons that resonate even today.
It's really amazing how a seemingly simple act, like making salt, could become such a powerful symbol of resistance. It speaks to the ingenuity of Gandhi's approach and his understanding of how to connect with the masses.
Absolutely. Gandhi was a master of symbolism. In this case, salt, a basic necessity of life, became a symbol of defiance against British oppression by breaking the salt law. Indians weren't just protesting a tax, they were asserting their right to self-determination.
And that message resonated with people from all walks of life, cutting across religious, social, and economic lines.
Exactly. The civil disobedience movement brought together Hindus, Muslims, Sikhs, Christians, rich and poor, urban and rural, It truly transcended differences and unified Indians under a common goal.
Which makes it such a pivotal moment in India's history.
Yeah.
It wasn't just about achieving independence, but about forging a sense of national identity and unity.
You're absolutely right. It played a crucial role in shaping India's national consciousness. It instilled a sense of pride in being Indian and a belief that India could govern itself.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the civil disobedience movement, what are some key takeaways for our listeners, especially those preparing for the UPSC exams?
Wow. For those tackling the GS1 Modern Indian History syllabus, this movement is a goldmine. First, understand the context. The simmering discontent in India, the broken promises of dominion status, and the rising demand for Purna Swaraj.
So a solid grasp of the historical backdrop is crucial. What else?
Second, delve into the strategic brilliance of Gandhi's choice of salt as a symbol of resistance. It was a masterstroke that mobilized millions across the country.
Right. Understanding Gandhi's tactics and his ability to connect with the masses is essential.
Third, remember the regional variations. While the core principles of nonviolent resistance remained, the movement took on different forms across India. Explore these regional nuances and the roles played by leaders in different parts of the country.
Makes sense. It was a pan-Indian movement. But understanding the regional variations adds another layer of depth to our understanding.
And finally, remember the impact. Both immediate gains like the release of political prisoners and the right to make salt, and the long-term legacy in shaping India's national identity and inspiring future movements.
Excellent points. The civil disobedience movement is a complex and fascinating topic. And as we conclude this deep dive, it leaves me wondering, how can the strategies and principles of this movement inspire us to address the challenges we face in our own time?
That's a thought-provoking question. The civil disobedience movement reminds us that ordinary people can achieve extraordinary things when they come together with a shared purpose and a commitment to nonviolent action. It's a legacy worth remembering and a story worth sharing.
Well said. And on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dive into India's civil disobedience movement. We hope you found it insightful and engaging. If you did, don't forget to like and subscribe, and be sure to hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on future deep dives. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.